little music just for a little bit while we wait for people. Boom. Sacred sexuality music. It's not started yet. Okay. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Huh. Oh, there comes. Oh, it is. It is on. It usually gives me. Huh. That's strange. What is this? Most important video you will watch. What is that? Is that about the, what you call it? You sent me a video. Oh, you don't want to say?
For after.
For after.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. We're coming along here. All right. So we tested the matrix today and the censorship. It looks like we came out victorious. So let's see if we can talk about sacred sexuality and see if they have any problem with that. The soft on. Okay, Morgan Lee. I think we're good to go. We're past the 2-minute mark. I think all the platforms are up. Are you okay? Yes, very much so. This is the soft on. Somebody, I can't tell who that is because they're on one of the platforms that didn't show the name. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? The soft on, sacred sexuality. Well, every aspect of our experience is new. And so, that's a big part of it. And it's different than it was, no doubt. Yvanya's ready to get her soft on.
Oh, Yvanya's on here.
Yeah. Oh, we should be hitting Australia fully. Yeah. So where do you want to start with this?
I don't know. We're talking about you, aren't we?
No, we're not talking about me. We're talking about sacred sexuality in the soft on. And what does that mean in relation to new relationships, as well as our sacred sexual energy, and as well as the divine union within a person? I mean, I think it all goes together. But you'll have to. Golden Light Being says her parents never taught her about this. Okay.
I don't think any of our parents taught us about this.
No, but you ran into somebody today that has run into it, and we were just discussing how it was very likely a lot more prevalent than any of us might have thought innately.
Well, we know that it is because we get people that send messages, not so much to you. I think maybe you've had a couple, but we get messages from people saying like something's not right or something's not working in that department.
Well,
we get messages saying like, my partner's not able to get an erection. Is there anything going on here, or are you able to fix that, or questions like that.
Yeah. People. Well, we've had sessions with couples. It's come up. We've had individual sessions. It's come up with either the female
or
talking about it. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Yeah. And so, but it's actually it's a good sign. It's actually a good sign. And I think that's part of the reason we wanted to come out and talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, people have asked us, can you pull up the videos where you've spoken about this before? And we've got no idea where it is. So we thought, okay, let's actually make a video about lingams and the behavior of lingams, and what goes on in these. I was half expecting you to choke when you took a drink when I said that, but it's better than Mr. Pinkleton, isn't it?
Yeah, it's better than Mr. Pinkleton and penis. I've always had an aversion to the word penis, but certainly better than that. But no, I was laughing because you said Lingam. You were keeping it straight.
Well, we should try to keep it a little bit, I don't know, fun or straight here, well, or a bit of both, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, so what we've experienced, and we're getting a lot of feedback from other couples or men or women, that it seems to be a fairly common thing in these relationships. It's I don't know, how deep are we going to go here, Todd?
As deep
Let's
as you
talk
want to
about
go.
yours. What happened with yours?
I thought this was about. Okay, well, I'll just. I'm not okay. I mean, I don't have a problem talking about anything, but I think that. Okay, so let me just throw this out there. I think when it is a situation when you have two coming together at the same frequency, and that because of the frequency that they're at, let's just say the third energy or the universe or whatever you want to call it kind of comes into play, because it is a triad, and it just there's some help and assistance in staying on the right track, because that's part of the higher frequency, the higher vibration. So we've talked about it in past shows where it was me a lot that would try to move things into the old patterns, and and you would say no, and I've said this before. I'd say, well, after a while, I'd be like, well, what are we going to do? What are we supposed to do then? You downloaded this stuff for 20 years. What are we supposed to do? And you'd say, I don't know, but I do know what we're not supposed to do. And so the third energy or the universal energy, it assisted us in that. And even to the point where I stopped us, 2 or 3 times, and stopped myself, because it's just part of the new, it comes with the territory, I guess. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Back to you.
We were very lucky because I'd already been told, to abstain. We'd both been celibate for, I think, me 4.5 years, and you 5 years. Is that right? Or was it 4.5 and 4 years?
Oh, you mean celibacy? That was probably 14. So we were, about almost 5 years. Mine was about 4.5 to 5 years.
Okay, so I reckon mine was 4.5 years. So we'd already been celibate. We'd already been speaking online and practicing Herriascamos already for 18 months by the time we met. And then I came over to America for 3 months and we still abstained. And then when I came back the second time, we abstained for 10 weeks. Then we got married, and I think about a week later, then we went, oh, shit, we're married. Maybe we should do something here.
It actually was an incredible experience. How deep do you want to go?
No, but I mean, we abstained for.
No, we did. We did abstain. Well,
yeah,
and
absolutely we did.
Yeah, I think maybe
But we slept in a bed next to each other. Todd always wore his shorts, and we were still very passionate. Do you want me to? We should have spoken about how far we're going to go with this straight up. But I think we should just be direct.
Absolutely. Well, I kept my shorts on the first trip.
The second trip.
No, hang on. No, because
you tried to take your shorts off one night when we were in Arkansas, and that was on my second trip.
And
I told you to get your shorts on, and you jumped out of bed and put them straight. That was the second trip. Yeah, but that was
the first trip. The first trip, it was very, very clear that I kept my shorts on. And we were very passionate. The second trip, I told you before you came, I'm not taking my shorts off. I mean, I'm not keeping my shorts off. But we still didn't have.
You kept your shorts on. It was the second trip we went to New Jersey, and then we got married, like on about the 10th week that I was there, and that's when your shorts maybe came off a couple of times.
Yeah, I think you
Then
got
we
to
went
me.
on the honey. I'm not going to talk to you if you're going to be silly.
I'm just kidding.
Mm.
Who is Golden Light Being with these comments? Identify yourself. But yeah, but that's right. But I think
Okay,
yeah.
so your lingam had a lot of erections in that time, and you'd run off to the bathroom and sort all that business out. But
Keep
then
going.
once we agreed to enter into that side of our relationship,
Mm-hmm.
then things started really changing quite dramatically. And I remember you feeling quite worried about, what's going on here. It's, I've never had issues, and it started then, didn't it?
Well, kind of, sort of. Yeah, kind of, sort of. But okay, so to me, it went like this: 17 months of Helioscomas. Because the reason I bring that up is because the merging that was occurring consistently from the beginning. I mean, we merged in the heart first, which was different for you, and in terms of the science of Helioscomas. But for me, I didn't understand it. So, as we started going through the chakras, we would be merging online, and this would, through sometimes, well, never with camera. We I didn't even see you on camera till 2 weeks before you came the first time. But my point is that you told me, I would get aroused, and you would tell me, we're going to now go from the lower chakras into the up towards, through the solar into the heart and so on. So that was new for me. I didn't even know what the hell was going on, but I was just following your directives.
Yeah.
But I think it's important because it showed me that energy moves, right?
Yes.
And so when you start to have what I call soulgasms or chakragasms in different chakras that are not associated with the normal sexual arousal and so on, as a man who didn't know about this stuff, I was like, oh wow, this is actually pretty cool, But then to answer your question, when we abstained and we were in the physical, it was a mixed bag for me because I had my own, and I think every man does. In fact, I know they do. Uh, I had my own programs running. So when you take the normal practice, I say the normal, when you take what I was used to, or what a man was used to, and you take that off the table, and you have to start operating, you start operating without doing what I knew as normal. There were, both epiphanies, like discovering. I think this is like the third night. This is the fourth or fifth night that we actually slept in the same bed on that first trip. My shorts were on, but I put my hand on your back, and you were having chakragasms, and I was remembering, I guess would be the way to put it. So there was then, and then now and then it would come in. I'd be like, oh, something wrong with me. So I started putting pressure on myself. So it was a mixed bag,
Mm.
But you're right. Once we consummated the marriage, then, because I remember right after the first time, which I don't mind saying, I was so excited. it was, it wasn't a very long term thing, but I remember because we didn't have much time from the time that happened to the time you left, the second time you came over after we got married.
Only a couple of days, like 3
Yeah,
days.
yeah, we didn't
Maybe.
have a whole lot of time, but we obviously we were, we broke the ice. So I was at least, I was like, okay, let's. But I remember that's the first time it happened, and I remember it was a telepathic moment. I think you said to me something like, "Do I need to help you?" Or we kind of like and I said, as you said it, you were already thinking, "Oh, I'm not supposed to do that," and I said, "No." I just knew no. So, but it was the next time you came when I was in Hawaii, and you came to Hawaii, and that's when it started. Um, and there was some of that, absolutely.
Okay, so what we learned from that is that lust was not going to be allowed to play a role
Mm.
in that. So it was really interesting. Like each time Todd let go, like it was almost like we weren't allowed to have a say. Lust wasn't allowed to be part of it. Absolutely, performance wasn't allowed to be part of anything that we did. And so as Todd started letting go of these programs and let go of what he thought should be happening, then it would start happening more organically. So, we've worked out just with ourselves and also talking to other couples and people that, are sharing their experiences with us as well, that there doesn't seem to be any place for that typical hard-on, that typical really hard erection. We're learning that the best erection is a softer 3/4 type erection, and that's plenty enough for what lovemaking is really, really meant to be looking like as we step out of what we were taught that it should have looked like. And we had no say. And yes, I was thinking, oh gosh, I'm the woman, maybe I should be trying to help here, but also knowing at the same time, no, it's not meant to be like that. There shouldn't be any energy of force in lovemaking. With regard to, I just want to zip back quickly with regard to the chakra movement. So what would happen is that the sexual energy had come up in both of us, but come up in Todd, and I'd say to him, okay, move that up to the next chakra. So we take that up to the solar plexus chakra, and then we'd experience massive, what he would call soulgasms in that, and then that was done. And then a few days later, we'd meet up again, and it would be ignited in the sacral, and this time you'd intentionally and consciously move it up into the heart chakra. And what was happening was that those two chakras were merging. And I have spoken about this before, so that, the fourth time we met up or connected, it happened in the throat chakra. And that was the loudest one for me, because I was due to give a public talk, which I just wasn't going to do. I was so terrified. And when our throat chakras merged, I remember giving the talk the next day. I hadn't even written anything up, but I did it ad hoc and zero fear, zero anything. And I immediately started writing poetry. So we started to really understand that in this conscious bringing that sexual energy or sexual power up into the into the chakras at the same time, we were actually neutralizing, zero pointing in an energetic way. So back to the penis, Todd, or the lingam, sorry.
And that was
Mr.
through
Pinkleton.
That was through Helioscomus. And just to be clear, in the example, when we merged throat chakras, she basically picked up my strengths and I picked up her strengths. Mine was the less loud, and she was more. She was then able to be more verbal. So yeah, I just.
And so that happened with every chakra, and I can't remember all the details, but Helioscomus is allowing that connection to happen, allowing the two souls, the two higher selves, to come together with both of us conscious, and then not controlling is not the right word, inviting that sexual energy to one at a time. There's no point doing it all at once, but one at a time, and then a few days later the next chakra, a few days later the next chakra. And so we did that with all the chakras first, and then after that we would just merge. And sometimes our higher selves would take us to another chakra, to revisit something. But after that, then Todd was still had a lot of programs, sexual programs, that needed to be cleared, and he did it slowly and painfully. Overall, slowly and painfully, because we can actually find those programs and clear them first up. But yeah, he did it slowly and painfully, so it was a drawn out time. And so what we found was, when we were 100% just connected at the heart, and it was absolute pure love, and if his body was meant to do something, then it stood to attention. But the rest of the times it didn't. It was meant to stay soft and mind its own business, so to speak. It was meant to, because there were far greater and bigger things that we were doing in the connection from that pure love in dimension, that the humans were consciously aware of what was happening as well. So we didn't actually need the interference.
Okay, so a couple of things, because I think it's important to differentiate the man.
Yes.
Because it just is. Because really, I think in women's intuition, a woman is more in touch with the innate knowing. A man is more subjected to the conditioning, and therefore the expressions impressed upon him through the conditioning of the world. which is the lower chakras. And you think a woman looks at you and smiles, and you think she wants to, you know what? Now, I wouldn't say it was painful and slow. I don't agree with that. And the reason I don't agree with that, because it was a mixed bag. So if you remember, you came to Hawaii. Now this would be the third time, her third trip. So we only had like 3 or 4 days of any activity after we got married.
Actual physical intercourse is what you mean.
Yeah. So now 4 months later, she comes, and the first night I'm like a teenage kid. So the sacred sexuality was, I mean, it was beautiful, but I guess it just kind of had to get out of my system because I was, I was very excited. And then we went back, I got it out of my system. And then we had 5 or 7 days in my friend's house. I was renting a room, and then we were going to go somewhere else. So what happened was we went into it, and immediately I remember what happened, because and this is the point I'm trying to make, is that when I let go, okay, like let's say for that next 2 or 3 days, I let go. And not only did we start to experience new methods or new experiences of sacred sexual intimacy, which looks nothing like what we were used to in our past, we also started to have dimensional experiences like that week. We had, I remember at one point, I mean, I can't remember all the details, but I remember one night it was like all these aunties and grandmothers surrounded us, and we're in the bed, and I'm looking at her, and all of a sudden she's like this, 18-year-old Lemurian princess, and I'm this young boy, hairless boy, and we're consummating. It was some type of it was an activation experience, dimensional, whatever you want to call it. But my point is, it was really the first time, although we had the hand on the back and different things would happen, like I talked about, but it was really the first time that I started to realize that, when you find this frequency together, things just start happening, right? Like, things just start happening. We didn't plan for the grandmothers and the aunties to surround us. We didn't plan to morph. I mean, it just happened. But I don't think it would have happened, would it?
Yes, I'll tell you why. Because when we're in Georgia and we're abstinent, so that on my second visit, we were still quite passionate with each other, and we were having our faces disappear and the galaxies coming, and we were having aliens come into the room and beings. So I believe those things happened because of the abstinence, because we didn't get sidetracked on the physical expectations. But when I came to Kauai, that's when all the dragons and everything started coming and merging with us.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying. I just forgot about Georgia. How could I forget about that? But yeah, it wasn't even like we would lay in bed. I remember then, you're right. It would have been like it was like the third night, and then the fifth or sixth night and we wrote about these things. But and so we were, and I did have my shorts on, and we were just, passionate and laying in bed, and even not even like, we might just be holding hands or just looking at each other. And then we heard that they were coming, and things would happen. So to your point, there wasn't any expectation of the old normal. And so by virtue of that, the frequency itself, much greater than what we think, started to open these doors. So you're right about that.
Yeah, it was because we both committed and accepted that we were remaining celibate, that we had pure heart-to-heart connection, and we were so open that we were getting more and more visitations and instructions. We were actually getting instructions. So yeah, Yvonne is right. When the genitals aren't the focus, the magic absolutely happens. And that was our experience really from the very beginning. We really started having these experiences from the very beginning. And I believe that was because we said, we're not doing labels, 3D sex, the old sex that we're not doing that. We're going to wait and see what happens. But let's go back to the Lingam, Todd.
Hang on. Somebody asked a question, and we might
Yeah.
as well knock it out because it actually applies to Helioscamos and really what we're talking about. So they said, is this like Tantra? And as I understand Tantra is you take the physical and then you take it up into the ethers in a sense. But Helioscamos, you're taking from the ethers down into the physical. Now, I always understood that when you told me that, um, that applied to Helioscamos. But if I think about these experiences, we weren't focused on the genitals. We weren't focused on performance. So in a sense, we were pulling in some way, pulling in the multidimensional part of it.
Mm.
And I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but somebody had asked that earlier, and I didn't want to be rude.
Yeah, I mean, I've never studied tantric or anything like that, but my understanding, like if I talk to friends or whatever, is you do all these physical practices or human practices and try to get into almost like a joint meditative type state. And I would imagine that this is what they're actually looking for. So we had it happen opposite. We started off in dimension through Helioscamos. We set up, and we show couples when we work to couples how to make that connection and then start consciously merging their higher selves as one so they get their own directions for their own. Because once you start practicing that, it gets very loud. You're actually going to be instructed on how-tos and different practices or whatever to make that happen.
Let me just interject this one thing. I just thought of this. So I met a guy way back, like 2013, when I first got into these communities. And the reason, and I was pulled to him because he had put up a post that he was celibate and he was in a relationship. Now we, might have been made friends, but I never really talked to him. I eventually got him on the show. He came on the show a few times. This is back in the early days, after we had met and everything. And so I don't know if this was tantra, but I just want to make this point for the gentlemen, okay, and really the ladies. Now, what he was doing was some type of approaching intimacy from some level of sanctity, at least in his mind. So I ended up asking him about this privately. And basically, what he would do is he would kind of serve her. And I thought, well, that's interesting. What do you mean by that? Like you just, she lays down and you kind of, uh, just caress her and so on. Anyway, my point is that as I discussed it with him, part of the process was that she aroused him with her hand. This is nothing like that. And I just wanted to make that point again because I think the men are coming from a different place.
Yeah, that's very true, and we've experienced that in our relationship as well. I wasn't allowed to serve Todd like I had been taught in previous relationships at all, and there were all these different things that happened too. I think, only days into my second visit, I was asked to get naked and lay across his lap and just let him explore me completely, with no happy endings. Like that, it was just absolute pure innocent exploration. It wasn't trying to
Yeah.
make anyone feel good or anything. And it's no longer so much so, but we were in the beginning not allowed to go into that. I wasn't allowed to do anything to him, basically.
That's the period when I had my shorts on that first trip.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
but
sorry. That was the second trip when you
even
did
the
that.
second trip as
Yeah.
well. Even
First
the
part of the
second trip,
second trip.
I was allowed to love him. I was allowed to kiss him. I was allowed to caress him, but I wasn't allowed to do anything to his penis. It was just blocked, and
Yeah.
that was a little bit confusing for me. But
It was
God,
a
it
little
was a
confusing
gift.
for me. That's why I said it's a mixed bag. I don't really know how, I've never been a big believer. I mean, I like to fast track things, but this was a very in-depth thing. And as time went on and had some retrospect, I realized what was happening, as we do things on an individual level and it serves a collective. So I understood why I was going through everything. Like you said, you have to embody everything. I was embodying everything, every feeling, every shadow. That's why it was more like we have an experience and it was sacred sexuality. And then I might flip back to, what's going on here? It was a trippy kind of deal, but yeah, the when that happened, see, that's a great example too. So she laid across me, and she told me, and I knew, because we were obviously we hadn't seen each other, and it was just the atmosphere spoke for itself. And so it's like, okay, I can put my hands all over you. Now, the old guy in me was going, you don't want to do that, but the knowing was, okay, well, if I can't do the things I have done, then what can I do? So then you start to discover essentially that there are sensuous spots all over her body. Like the whole thing is I don't mean to make light of this at all, but I mean the whole thing is a yoni. The entire being in front of you is, and so it's, yeah. I mean, I just mean that it's like that was something I didn't understand.
But the time I'm talking about, Todd, it wasn't the whole body. It was just the yoni, to give you absolute 100% access to the yoni.
Mm-hmm.
And you were told nothing sexual, do what you want, but this isn't sexual.
Yeah, that's true. Yes,
yeah.
That's true.
And I think it was only a few days after that, then we were instructed that you had to do the same with the right breast. And that's when you ended up learning how to have female orgasms, multiple 3 hours of female orgasms.
Yeah.
So it was the abstinence and the gift of the lingam not getting automatically hard all the time. It's like if he had a hard penis, he would have been distracted with that. So the fact that the penis wasn't allowed to work, the lingam wasn't allowed to work, was such a fantastic gift.
Yeah, of course it was. And so coming from the man's point of view, who identifies with his penis, and Kai said penis, okay, who identifies with his lingam, who identifies with his virility and his hard-on and performance and everything goes with it. It's an adjustment to lay in bed with a beautiful goddess, and be comfortable to be soft. And so it's one thing if you say, oh, we're going to lay down and, and we'll just chat and we might hug a little bit. Even that with a man is a big head trip. But to actually embrace and put your hands on each other and not include it and be okay with it, that's a big head trip for a man. So I was that's why I say it was a mixed bag, because in those moments when I could let go, and it's no different than us getting a download and 20 minutes later we're going, am I making this up? So we would have, and it was really me, when I could meet the frequency and let go, then things would just happen. Like it, in the old paradigm, you make a move and then you go here and then you go there. This isn't like that. This is like you let go. Oh, I can be soft. You're not a player here. Forget about that. And you can hit it. And then all of a sudden, something would happen. The thing with the right breast, that came in. And I think it was faith or hope, or what was the trust?
Gosh, I can't remember. I think the right breast was faith.
And sustenance. Right.
I think the left breast was when you did the left breast a couple of days later, that was sustenance. And then the two breasts together was something else. But they were like portals. And that was Todd's first experience of but I mean, he had these programs. Like I remember the previous trip, a couple of days before I left, he said, oh, well, you wait till you get here. I'm fully trained in yoni massage. And I said to him, do you remember, Todd? I said to him, you come near me with any of that shit and I'll leave.
Okay.
Because we weren't allowed to go into any of those old programs, our bodies. And what we found through those 18 months of merging, when we did come together, it's like every cell of my being knew every cell of his being and vice versa. We knew everything about each other. We'd merged so much. It was phenomenal, incredible. It wasn't like two strangers coming together. It was like two people who had known each other forever. He knew everything about my body and vice versa.
Yeah. And, okay. So like, just to explain to people. So what happened, we would lay down in the afternoon at that time. We would lay down in the afternoon and we would see what happens, right?
We always started with our hands together.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like set up, okay, the doors are open, we're open to whatever is coming.
Yeah. So then the channel came in and it was spend 30 minutes on her right breast. This is trust. And, we said, okay. So.
And you weren't allowed to do anything else. You weren't allowed to kiss me or
it was just the right breast. And so like, that's like different, right? I mean, this beautiful naked woman who you love with all your heart and you focus on it. And so you get past the human, you shut the mind off. And then I start feeling things, right? I start feeling weird sensations and so on. And so we do this for 30 minutes and she left. And then I went to the bathroom because I was having orgasms throughout my body. It wasn't like the Harioscamus chakra gasms, but there was some of that. Certainly in the heart there was, but it was like all through my body, like especially my legs. And so, it took a long time for me to kind of adjust to that. I actually, went into the shower and I tried to work it out that way a couple of times and it still didn't go away and it just wouldn't stop. So it was a real eye opener. Even though it was not something I was used to, I just knew, okay, well, let's just keep going, see what happens. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say too, we've actually met couples and just in knowing them, not, getting into explicit talks or anything, knowing that they went right into it, right into the traditional, intimacy. And it's not the same. It's a place that somehow or another, if you can do that, because that's the most vulnerable situation you can be in, that the outcome of it is seen through your whole relationship, not just dimensional stuff, but even in the way you get along. I mean, it's just mind blowing. It represents the entire relationship. So when we've known some people that jumped into it and struggled, and I'll just leave it at that.
And then worked out perhaps we should abstain and take a different track here. I mean, obviously there are many paths up a mountain and people do it differently, but I think maybe we just happen to get couples that are on this same track of making that decision of, okay, we're going to meet, we're going to get to know each other, we're going to become friends. And not only that, but a lot of them have actually been doing this because so many of them are coming from different sides of the world. So there was no other choice.
And we did a session with a couple not too long ago, and they were just like us. It almost even like the same ages, and so in the session, one of the things that came up was because they had just started, they'd had a long distance thing going on. And it was a very slow track, just like us, and so they were getting to this point, and he was having a soft on, and it wasn't a big deal. They weren't hung up on it or anything, but they were talking to us about it. And so we did the session, and then Morgan sent him with some homework, and she ends up meeting with him again. I wasn't in on that one, but in the conversation,
careful, Todd.
I'm not going to say anything. But my point is that in the letting go, one of the things that she heard was, "Hey, I'm getting some activity down there. There's some life in it." So that's what I'm saying. It wasn't like something that they were looking for. It just happened as a result of trying this, what was once, like say, not a normal path.
Okay, so what another way to put that is that, often when somebody contacts us and said, look, the erection thing isn't happening, and they do these other exercises or take a different turn, then it changes everything, because the programs, it's like these relationships don't seem to allow for lust. for hard-ons, for performance. So once you strip those things away, then things start to come to the party naturally. It's almost like when a certain frequency is met, then it's there. It's there. But the rest of the time it's allowed to be soft. And I said to Todd years ago, she loves his softness as much as she loves his hardness. Like it really doesn't matter. And when you let go of the hardness, all the other stuff that happens is absolutely exquisite for both parties.
Yeah. And I was just thinking of something. God, forgot. Yeah. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So all these things happen, and you don't know they're going to happen. There was even a period of time. She had left and gone back. I ended up somehow made it to Hawaii. She came to Kauai, but before she came, there was a 4-month period. I think I was in Sedona for a while, but I was in Kauai maybe 6 weeks. 6 weeks. And I actually started hearing my Lingam talking to me. Like it was cluing in. I was hearing, like this is okay, and there's a lot of times we would be, even later on, we'd be going together. We'd be, have our hands together and say, okay, like what's happening here? Why can't we do this? And they'd say, we'd hear, hey, they'd laugh. You have no idea what's in store for you. And it was true. Now, in terms of the man who was obsessed, because I think the evidence is there for all of us, primarily, that with that you let go. And then the surprise is, not only does it come back, like a lot of the elevations or the things that happen as a result of our elevations on our ascension path, but it comes back in a way that's almost really unexplainable. And so and that's still occurring today, even with you over there.
Yeah, and it's a different type of hardness, isn't it?
Yeah.
And not only that, but I think it excretes a different type of thing. I don't know the right terms for everything. I should learn this stuff if I'm going to be talking about sex. But what's the right term that comes out of it, Todd?
Well,
semen,
amarita, in a woman's amarita, it's like people might call it pre-cum, but it's not. So that's not even right either, because it's more like
ejaculation. I think it's called ejaculation.
Well, that would be
so when that comes out, it's quite viscous, quite thick and viscous. So what happens with this is it becomes clearer and clearer, and actually ends up at times being just amarita, just clear, sweet liquid, rather than that real viscous type of thing. So, but your lingam, sorry, Todd, has completely changed. I mean, the erection is totally different, isn't it? It feels different from the inside, the outside.
Yeah. Okay. Let's back up a little bit. And we've told this story, so we don't have to go into the story. But in the first, I don't know how to describe this, but let's just say the first long, in duration, sacred sexual intimacy that we had, it was now what would be the third trip. She comes to Kauai. It's just maybe a few, like 8 weeks go by. And again, we weren't going into we were still passionate and everything. And we would stop if something happened. And I got a little irritated a couple of times, went outside and had to go for a walk. So it was still a journey. But one night we just put our hands together and we go for 4 hours. And I don't mean like the porn and the pounding and all that, but here's the perfect example. In this 4-hour period, there was a period of about an hour where I was in what would look like from a picture, a missionary position. I had my elbows on the bed like this, and there was no movement at all.
It wasn't much longer than an hour, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, in that one position, I'm talking about. There was an hour, then there was another hour of that, then so there was like different parts of it. But what I'm saying is, for a man, and I'm speaking for myself or any man that might be interested to know what is on the other side of this, if you can it's no different than meditating in terms of just clear your mind. So what happened was, in terms of the lingam, number one, not only did it have this different type of soft hard on, and I don't know how to explain that, but it would be more like a soft on. It would be more like say an 80%, but the flow of the blood was much different. It was very strange. My breathing must have been innate because my breathing began to change. I didn't try to make it change. And for 45 minutes, an hour, I'm in this position. I never broke a sweat. I never got flaccid. And in the middle of that, you're right. It was about an hour and a half to 2 hours, because in the middle of it, I actually had the integration of a physical and non-physical orgasm. That would be the easiest way to say it. But I had electricity or kundalini shooting up and down my spine as I had this physical orgasm that was nothing like anything I'd ever experienced. Not only was it not the characteristics of like a pulse. It wasn't like that. It was like a fire hydrant, and it just went off, and it went off for a long time. And like she said, this other type of excretion came out.
Yeah, like Amrita, and you didn't move, and neither did I. But you explained afterwards, it felt like there was an octopus massage your lingam the whole time. So all of and we felt this. You entered, you stopped, and we were told stop. So we stopped, and then we felt my sexual power come up to meet you, and that's when all that started. Now, if we'd been distracted with the old typical sort of sex that we were happening, we would never have learned all this stuff.
No. And I'm convinced too that the relationship wouldn't be, and I'll give you an example, and we can back up, but in the last week and a half, I've had, as many people, I've had very clear lucid dreams. And not one of these lucid dreams has had sex or sacred sex, but Morgan's in the dreams, and we're doing whatever we do, right? Whatever the scenes of the dreams are. But at least 3 nights, maybe 5 nights, I've had this soft on, which is very firm, but not like the old type. And
that's not a soft on. That's like a 3/4.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's not like a hard on, but it's like I said, it's hard to describe because everything feels different, and there's a whole different type of circulation. At least I'm just trying to explain it. I don't know if it's the blood, but it's certainly a kundalini or chi type of thing. Now, I told Morgan, because I'm in and out of these lucid dreams, I'm thinking, and I told her, I said, I don't know what the hell's going on. I figured it out though. That's why I'm bringing it up. But I'm almost concerned, like I need to go to the hospital or something, like I took some Viagra or something, because it doesn't go down, right? It's just every time, like for instance, last night it happened. I woke up on the hour, 4 hours in a row. It was there the entire time. I get up because I'm finally frustrated to just get up. I can't sleep. And I'm walking around with a tent in my shorts for another 30 minutes. So the reason I believe this has happened is because in these lucid dreams, regardless of what's happening, like the story of the dream, the frequency of the love, is the only way I could describe it, is getting stronger and stronger. It's like building. And I mean, I told her last night before I went to bed, I said, I don't know what's going on. I sent her a note and I said, I'm really missing you. And it's in the heart, but I'm like past the human terminology of that, right? So it was kind of a shocker. But then after I experienced the night, then I realized, as I was reflecting today, I thought, oh, okay. So we're actually interacting. It's real, even maybe even more real. And so that frequency is getting raised. And this is one of those things that is a result of it. And but yeah, it's not the same thing. And I could probably, I hadn't thought about this, but I could probably think of some words like natural, warm, very comfortable. I know this sounds strange, but relaxed. It feels like there's a current. Here we go. It feels like there's a current. Like if you stuck your finger near an electrical socket and you had a little water on it, and you could feel the current come through, like that. But it's not uncomfortable. So I don't know. I'm just reporting from the front lines here. I don't know, but
there's certainly been a huge change. I mean, and let's talk about masturbation. Your masturbation has really changed as well, hasn't it?
well, I didn't really do a lot of that, but I did. I'm not going to say
You
I
did in
didn't.
my first trip.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd say like in 10 weeks, I might have done it, 10 times. And that wasn't something I was doing, but it was because I didn't know what else to do, and I'd run to the bathroom and try to work it out. But, but yes, so yeah, that would be something that occurred. And then of course, when we were apart, but what ended up happening, and I'm finding this is actually happening to a lot of things, diet, habits, and so on. It's falling away very naturally, but I think it's falling away as a result of the frequency being raised. And again, this is what we're talking about. Um, yes, the subject of sacred sexuality, but it's also an indicator. Like there's a like we talk about uh, what is it? Emptying the vessel to fill it up with like empty 3D, bring in 5D. So this is the type of thing to me that it doesn't just apply to couples; it applies to individuals. But yeah, masturbation to me isn't even a thought. Uh, it's not because I'm prude or anything. It's just it's like a I don't know. I guess it's just a distraction. It would be such a force if I even tried. I don't think I could do it. There's just no element of what we might call something pornesque or fantasy or. But I do think that it's a big program for men, and it's good to talk about it. I really do.
Somebody that I spoke to, and I can't remember who it was, and even if I did remember, I wouldn't say, but somebody was saying to me that, the majority of men, when they're about to ejaculate with their partners, their mind goes immediately to a scene. Like I think you said when you said, "Oh yes," when you used to think of Halle Berry, and that would help make you ejaculate. But these relationships, you are so present with your partner that you don't have to go off and fantasize about anything to make that moment happen. So it's almost like the stripping away of all of the old programs, including the need to masturbate, including all of it, just dropped away, and it's a whole different ball game. But I think those experiences that we had for 2 or 3 months before I left, where our light bodies started coming up and making love to each other, has been a big part of this as well.
Yeah, that's like the third or fourth phase. But I mean, the golden light being, whoever that is, I'm going to find out. Anyway, she asked, "Does it change your DNA?" I don't know. You can speak to this, but I think it's kind of like a chicken and the egg thing. If somebody asked me, and I wouldn't want to say this that I know for sure, but to me,
Yes.
there's definitely a change in the DNA. Another way to put that to me anyway would be a raising of the frequency, which is achieved by, and I'm mostly speaking this for the men because that's the only part I understand, a raising of the frequency by I don't want to say shut the mind off, but not going into the old patterns. And I think that could very well change DNA,
Absolutely.
but also the actual experience in my mind absolutely changes the DNA. There's no question.
Okay, Todd, so think about this. You think about some of the proxy sessions we do, and we go in and change the programming within the DNA, and then the behavior changes. So if you're changing by the behavior, you're absolutely changing your DNA, or you can go in and change your DNA, ask for the old sexual programs to be shut down, ask for any ancient sacred wisdom or sacred sexuality or Helioscamos information to be activated. It doesn't matter which way you do it, whether you go in and speak to your DNA and change your DNA, or whether you're going to do new behaviors, and then your DNA will align with the new behaviors. So my answer would be yes, I absolutely believe it changes your DNA.
Absolutely, it is. I mean, and because, as within without, like, we don't need to get into it, but I mean, some of the things that have happened, uh, like in that 4 hour episode we were talking about, the first one, that was like the first of four that happened over a 3 or 4 week period. We, we finished, I guess. And we lay down, we just lay down. Neither one of us broke a sweat. It was crazy and weird. It was mad. I must have had 200 orgasms. Literally, I'm not just saying that. Anyway, when we were done, we laid back, and all of a sudden, the ceiling disappears, and these starships start going across the whatever that was, and other things appeared. So, to me, that's a reflection or evidence as well.
So Todd, what happened that night was we were laying there completely still. We're embraced. You've entered me with a partial erection or 3/4 erection. And both of us, our higher selves were doing everything, and both of us could see what our higher selves were doing. Our higher selves made love in every possible way you could imagine. And they kept having orgasms, and then move a different position, make love, they had an orgasm. And we laid in absolute stillness, and our bodies reacted to everything that they were doing. I just saw you put up a message. How did it affect the bodies when the light bodies came up and did it? Identically, pretty much identically, except this time it would come through in a frequency first. And then we were allowed to do it over 5 or 6 nights, a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then why we were allowed to do it? Because it was making us sick. We'd start vomiting it. The frequency was so huge. But it was our light bodies were showing us what to do. In the first night it came in as a frequency, the next night it came in and it showed us what was going to happen. By the third night we started trying to copy what the light bodies were, like keep up with the light bodies, until we got sick. And then the fourth night a bit more, and then the fifth night a little bit more, and then by the sixth or seventh night we're actually able to do what the light bodies were showing us. But the light bodies was interesting because I think the first time it happened is my masculine light body came up and made love to Todd's feminine light body. That was the first week to 10 days, maybe 7 days. Then it flipped into my masculine light body making love to Todd's masculine light body. Now, clearly we can't copy that, but we felt it all and felt that there's absolutely no difference at all. And then it was female to female, my female light body and Todd's female light body. But our physical bodies felt all of it. Every single thing. It was phenomenal.
It was I saw my yoni actually,
and felt your yoni, like having multiple everything. Like if my masculine light body went down on Todd's feminine light body, Todd could feel all of it, and vice versa. Like everything that our light bodies
I saw your lingam. I saw your I saw your lingam. And so what's the effect on the physical body, or does it affect the physical body? Absolutely.
It was making us sick.
The energy of it,
until we could tolerate that much energy, that much frequency.
And we kind of got like a sequel thing at the last night before you left this time, because we actually, and it was that same pattern of, it was weeks and weeks of 7 days of this and then 7 days of that, basically. And then the last one, we were kind of putting it all together. And then right at the point of, we just got right to the point of bringing it all in, but it was just too much. You looked at me and we knew it was like, okay, this is it. And then boom, it just became too much. I'm almost getting sick thinking about it, because it's such a powerful, it's a powerful energy. It's like to me, it's like a kundalini or a chakra moving, energy moving through your chakras, except for it's very physical, obviously, like nausea. We had time. We threw up. I mean, literally threw up. So it definitely, and I think in a way it was, obviously it was, letting us.
And we had experiences of you being in another room, because I'd say to you, you have to get out. I'm going to be sick. You have to, and you go in the other room, and half an hour later, our light bodies would start up again, and we'd be having the experiences in separate rooms.
Yeah, that happened.
We haven't spoken about the golden particles from the very beginning. We're actually from Georgia, really, I guess. From Georgia, with the right breasts, and the room would start filling up with all these golden particles that I was instructed to send to Soulology. That was pretty phenomenal too, when you
Yeah.
saw the energy that was made between the two of us and realized that you could direct that to certain places.
And that's been a part of it ever since. That's been a part of it ever since. You know, and mostly you, but sometimes it's happened to me. There was a couple of times it happened to me, and you said, "Where do you want to send it?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Okay, I'll send it to us, or I'll send it to Soulogy or whatever." Somebody says everything is porn. I just don't like what is normal these days. My comment to that, and Remy, I think that's a man's name, but I'm saying this because I've been on this path as a man. That if I look at this aspect of our experience, and I'm talking about all of us, it's no different than any other part of the experience in relation to being on the ascension path. It's a choice. You know, so much of what we're doing, all of us, we would have never thought we would be doing it 10 years ago. So we're choosing the miraculous or the fantastic or the unbelievable or the imaginative. And this is kind of the same. And I know that's not a perfect description, but that only exists if you let it exist. You know, it's like if I'm focused on, like in this case, sacred sexuality, then there is no porn in there. There is no, you know, slam bam, thank you, ma'am, in there. It's just not. I would have never believed that it didn't require back and forth humping. I would have never thought that, but experiencing it one time and watching what happened, we were like just in awe, you know. I mean, in awe. It was just, you can't even describe it.
And then we decided the next night, oh my God, let's do that again. We were not allowed to do it. We were absolutely not allowed to do it. We were not allowed to bring lust or control or energy or force or whatever into it. So it was really learning to completely let go and trust. And there were many nights we were tired. We'd go to bed thinking that we're just going to sleep. And we always we lay next to each other and put our hands there, and then it'd be on. It would be on. So next thing we're up till 5 o'clock in the morning again. But yeah, one of the most powerful keys of this is basically to mind our own business.
Yes, it to me, it has the same template, which I always, you know, you hear me say on the show, shut the F up and get out of the way, because that's it really, and it operates the same way. Somebody asked, and I can't see the name because it's on one of the platforms that didn't have the name. Do you exchange codes after sacred sex?
I think we exchange codes during sacred sex, but we've got in our sessions, what we do is we consciously, like if we've got a couple there or just another person, we consciously do this thing where we agree, all three parties agree if they want to exchange codes. And when we agree to do that, the codes, each individual's code goes up to a point. And then it comes down, like it goes up to a point, stays there, merges, and then it comes down into all three or all four of us. So the code is consciously and automatically shared.
The couple of more questions. So that follow-up question was, do you have energy work to do afterwards? I think this is what she's saying, is that it is not a structured scenario. It just happens. You know, kind of like if you draw the analogy of, you know, we're not stuck on our traumas of the past anymore. We're not focused on the future. We're becoming present. It's a very present type of experience, and it's spontaneous and it's intuitive, and so there's no, other than like instruction. We would get instruction like do this or do that, okay, and you can comment on that. The other thing that if you want to, the other thing that I wanted to address, because they're asking really and saying good things, is that the vomiting could be a release of programs. I understand that question. I'm not saying anything's right or wrong, but what I'm telling you, the way it felt, it was pure energy. I had the same type of experience happen today, and I just realized that maybe, you know, with the new type of hard on I was telling you about, that's probably what happened to me today. I was laying on the bed before I did this solo this morning, and it was very similar to that. Now I think about it, the energy was running through my body. My arms start shaking. I felt like I was levitating. I thought I was going to die. And was I releasing anything? I don't think so. I think in these experiences that we were having, we could actually feel the energy, and it was just too much for the body. It was an overload for the body. And
Hmm.
that's why, like you said, we would take a few days, kind of like a little bit the first time we get the information, then it was just kind of a,
Yeah, I remember years ago, like each time, like a new entity, a new energy wanted to merge with my daughter, who I think was about 21 at the time. She would get sick and she'd come back, and then it would merge a bit more and she'd get sick again and come back. It was like a new frequency would merge with the human physical. It was too much. And I don't know if you remember, Todd. Well, of course you do. I think about the third night when I came to Houston and we were together and we were just kissing and cuddling, that same thing happened. And I had to go to the bathroom,
yeah.
and you held all my hair back. And it was like a cool gel, I think you call it there, jello. It was a stream, this perfect stream, like somebody had just turned a tap on very, very slowly, just went
Hmm.
just out. I was like, what the hell was that? Who even knew that was possible? But yeah, these frequencies, when two people are coming together and merging, and then not only are they merging with themselves, but they're merging with universal intelligence, or whatever you want to
Hmm.
call that, third energy or more, or whatever it is. It's a lot of energy. It's a
Hmm.
lot of energy for the human being to be able to align with, merge with, accept.
Yeah. And so on the issue of the codes and energy exchange, as my feel for it and what I've learned from you and just picked up, this is actually the most the method with the most, efficiency or efficacy, or like this is this. Yes, every time these episodes occur, and that could even be us standing around the house and stuff, right? Like we just look at her, and there's a certain something happens. There's a certain frequency that's met, like tuning forks, right? And there's this information is passed. I mean, and now we see evidence of that. I've seen her morph into many things, many different feminine beings, dragon, literally. Okay, and so there's evident, the grandmothers and the aunties being around us in the Lemurian incident. It might be a situation where, like in Georgia, we were laying down and we were in that energy. It was there, whatever we were doing, if we were doing anything other than even putting our hands together. And then the instructions came in: kneel on the bed, put your hands together. And the next thing you know, she's morphing for 45 minutes into all different aspects of herself, from off planet, off universe, on Earth. Same with me. We never said a word. We get up the next morning. Hey, you know what happened? Oh, that happened to me too. And then there was other incidents.
No, we knew, because I remember that first night I was shaking. I was so scared, and I'm trying to, we're kneeling on the bed in front of each other, and our faces disappeared, and then all these other faces came forth, and I was scared witless. I still get scared. I pull the covers up and Todd's
Mhm.
looking at everything, but and you were shaking too. And I said to you, "Oh my God, I was so scared." And you said, "Oh, I wasn't." And I'm like, well, why were you shaking? You said I was cold,
It
but it
was
was
very,
like
it was very
it,
cold.
it was not cold. It was the middle of summer. It was
I know, but
stinking
I'm just
hot.
saying, I was cold. I was like cold from the bones.
Well, I was shaking from
Yeah,
fear,
but
because these beings were coming and showing themselves to us. And I think
yeah,
there
we
was
had
another
we had
time
like
Merlin stepped out, and
Merlin came. I mean,
but I
literally
think
appeared.
if you were bonking, I don't know if you'll understand the word bonking here in Australia. Bonking, like
We
jiggy
know it.
jiggy,
We know.
like getting it
We,
on.
we know that. We know what that
All
means.
of this is, just it's the love that's felt between human
Mhm.
beings. And I know men, when they first get into bed with a woman, they quickly want to learn all the buttons. How am I going to make her do all this and this and this? He's not there connected with her heart to heart. He's
No,
he's
that's
wanting to be
yeah.
the best lover he possibly
No,
can. you,
no,
you're missing the whole point, where there's no heart to heart connection when that
no.
happens.
And we had a something the other night, a session the other night. I'm gonna go back to it in a second, but these questions that speaks to what you're talking about. Do you feel downloads and waves of energy coming into you after as as well. Yes, we talked about that earlier.
Yes.
You might not have been here, but so there was something that came in the other night, and this goes back to what you were just talking about. And I can't remember when it was. It was maybe we did a session, but I know it was me and you, and it was just recently. But there was a specific part of it where they were using the Egyptians as an example, and we might have even put this out. But the point is that we were told in the session, and whether this is just what we were told, that was the last, I guess, major civilization that had a pocket of people that were still in tune with this. That and really what it was saying is this is how they gained code. This is how they, received information. This is how they raised their frequency. And it was obviously very sacred, but also it was very well understood. So yes, to answer that question again is, do we receive uploads, or I'm sorry, downloads, visually and otherwise. And again,
in these, what we haven't spoken about yet, but in these sessions or our lovemaking, we weren't jigging, we were often taken to other areas, other places, ceremonies, events, other planets. That would happen quite often as well. In the merging, like after, in the Heliosgamos aspect, then we would be shown and taken to other planets, all sorts of incredible things.
Yes. And just so you know, Jen Funt sent you, Jen Funt, thank you, sent you a message in Messenger that she said you haven't seen. She wants to get a session with you. But you could also do zeropointing.com, all lowercase, all run together, zeropointing.com. I checked those for her.
Look, my belief is that we all have this within our DNA. It's all there. Just some people will activate it through meeting other people, through meeting their divine unions, or will have, an automatic activation themselves, or they can go into their own DNA and activate it themselves.
Yes, and here's a good comment. And again, I don't know the name because it's on a different platform, but it's speaking to what you talked about as well. Cool on Merlin popping in. You are putting out a beacon to all sorts of beings when you operate on that frequency. When you put out that strong of an energy, it can attract attention to the astral realms. Well, the way our experiences have been, and that's another way to kind of put it. And again, I think we've all pretty much had these experiences on an individual basis, and we just get away from comparing how it happens for people. Some people, it might be a dragon, some people it might be just an inclination or an intuition, but we look at it, we even understood it, like these are aspects of us that came to the party that we were able to connect to. So to me, it's no different than, an aspect that somebody might channel, or an aspect that somebody might get a visitation from, or whatever the case is. But yeah, I think that the way you put that is, another way to say it is, you're raising your frequency, but there's more power, just like the sacred books say, where two or more gather. And so in this case, where you have an externalization in our experience, in other words, what as within without, then it only makes sense that the first avenue outside of self is with another person. Is it always romantic? I don't know. Probably not. I don't know how that works, but there's certainly a larger opportunity, a larger potential when two. It would just make sense to me. But anyway, you want to add on that? Looks like somebody was taken to Telos in the same manner, like you're talking about.
Yeah, so I don't know, maybe now we've got this, when people message, I can just say, here, look at this video.
That's good.
I don't know. Here's a video about his softness, and his softness is exquisite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then somebody made a comment about when I do solo, do you feel it? But we talked about this earlier. It's not really a part of, it just doesn't happen. But I will say this, when she left, there's two different scenarios. One, I think we talked about this. The second night she was and the second night she was in quarantine when she got to Australia. The second night she's in Australia, my light body penetrated her physical body. Now, did we plan that? Did we say, "Hey, I'm going to come over"? No, but there was already, because we were both kind of shocked about it. She obviously was, but we did know it was happening when we talked about it later.
We took note of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote the time down that it happened. Yeah. And I didn't want to message him because I thought he'd be asleep. But when we spoke the next morning, he was able to tell me exactly what time it happened.
And then the other thing I was going to say too is I did have a couple of nights. They were successive nights. And again, it was the same type of energy. Obviously, the humans struggled a bit with, the separation. So, but it wasn't coming from there, and it wasn't coming from, I need to get my rocks off. I just found myself laying in bed, and I was like, oh, something's happening, And so it was, I guess, technically a solo deal. One night there was an ejaculation. One night there was not. But what was happening was I was in the same field of experience that I had been with Morgan in the physical, or even say Harioscamus, when we were doing that in the early days. And I even saw her, but I was actually saying to myself, is that her or is that me? And then, it was a dimensional experience. It was an experience of elevation. And I was getting that, well, what's the difference? It's, you know what I mean? It was really profound. I don't think that she picked up on that. If I remember, I might have mentioned it to her. But I did. And the thing about, somebody just said too, is it like sex magic? Well, I've met a few people that were involved in that, and I've also had quite a bit of, I guess, downloads about that, or memories, or however you want to put it. It's nothing like that. To me, the sex magic that I've been exposed to, and that includes the ones that are more widely known, okay, a couple of books that are more widely known, that to me is very much a man-made thing, a tainted thing, and really an energetics of manipulation, or a manipulation of energetics and power over and things like that. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying this is not, in my opinion, not the same thing. But you might have a comment on that.
I've never heard of it. I don't even know don't know what it is. So, okay, so that's it. That's talking about Mr. Pinkleton.
We're just getting started. What are you talking about?
Oh, well, we can finish afterwards.
Finish what? What are you talking about? Okay. Let's see. Well, I don't know. Did we leave anything out? Well, I guess we should make like a conclusion. I just want to make a conclusion for the men. Okay. And I'm not trying to differentiate. I can only speak from my experience. I believe it is innate in all of us. I understand that all couples aren't physically the same sex. I mean, opposite sex and all that stuff. So let's not get caught up in semantics, but they're the feminine part of, this is my opinion. Like, I think she's right. I know she's right. It's innate in all of us. And that's, I think, much easier, and it makes sense. Women's intuition, that the woman is going to be more in touch with that. And I believe that's absolutely true, because if you look at, any relationship from the past, of people that and stuff, at least from a man's point of view, I know what the guys say. I know their mentality, and, it's just the way it is. So for the men, what I would say is, we tried it the other way. It's not going to work. I know there's couples out there that have the frequency, and even, I can think of a couple that was married over 70 years, and I know they had it. I can't tell you what their physical intimacy was like, but I guarantee you they had it, and I know others. But from a man's point of view, all I can say is that if give it a shot, go for it, and I can tell you, if you can do that, and it can be done, the what's on the other side of it will blow your mind. It'll blow your mind. It's like, it's, you can't even, you don't even know, you don't even have any idea. There's no way. I still don't. And you? What do you got?
I feel like I'm done.
What does that say? Actually, more than that. Okay. All right. So thank you, everybody. And I guess we're going to sign off. And thank you, Golden Light Bean. Who is that? I want to know who that is. I'm going to look it up. All right. We'll see y'all later. All right. I'll call you in a few minutes, Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Give me like 5 minutes. I have to go to the bathroom and take care of something.